Welcome to episode 39 of 1530. So today we'll be discussing the French Open. Novak Djokovic defeated Stefanos Tsitsipas in an amazing final that went 5 sets. We'll talk all about that final, but also the semifinals are pretty good as well. We'll be discussing those matches. King of Clay, Nadal, was defeated by Djokovic. We'll talk about kind of why that happened and what the numbers show with that, because that was a match for the ages. That's kind of what we have in store. Kind of a little preview. We want to talk about Tsitsipas, how he's able to win on clay and how it's different than maybe how Djokovic or Nadal wins. It's a little bit reminiscent of Roger Federer, who's made 4 French Open finals. So that's going to be a point of discussion as well. And of course, we do have the numbers to back it up. We also want to look forward to Wimbledon. Obviously, Djokovic has got to be the favorite. Federer usually is kind of a favorite going into Wimbledon, but I think this year with his form, he's struggling a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what unfolds there as Wimbledon approaches. All right, we'll start off with the stat of the day. So our most obvious stat of the day is one major. Novak Djokovic is only 1 major away from tying Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal for the most majors of all time. This is probably a little shocking for you Nadal fans who would have guessed that Nadal would have pushed his total to 21 by this point because, well, let's face it, Roland Garros is his playground. He has only not won it, 3 times now for the times that he's entered into the tournament. I guess maybe 4, because one time he withdrew, didn't lose, but his 3rd loss in Roland Garros. They even erected a statue. I believe this year was the first time they had that statue erected. So pretty crazy. But now Djokovic only stands 1 major away. He's really kind of made up for lost time, and it'll be interesting to see if he'll even tie that later this year, or if Federer will have something to say about it on the grass of Wimbledon. The other stat of the day we want to talk about is, for actual numbers, is Nadal had 8 double faults. So if that seems like a lot to you, this is in the, of course, semifinal match against Djokovic. That is a lot for Nadal. He only had 6 aces. We kind of talked about going into Roland Garros that his serving, especially the double faults, were a little bit concerning. And I was just curious to see how many double faults he usually has per match throughout his season. So I drew a nice little chart here. So it looks like, for his entire career, he's never been higher than 2. I guess now he's a little bit higher than 2, but 2.5 double faults per match. Of course, this is more going to be weighted toward, best of 3 sets. But even if you go best of 5, kind of multiply it by 2 there, a little bit longer matches, you're still nowhere near the 8. 8 is much higher than, double faults we've seen from Rafa. We're used to seeing him very consistent. So even on the clay, really getting that first serve in, really high first serve percentage. And if he gets a second serve in, he's kicking it to the player's backhand generally, especially the one-handers. And he's not missing that second serve. But against Djokovic, and really kind of all season, really struggling with the second serve. So that's our stat. Those are our 2 stats of the day, I guess you could say. But Matt, before we get into the final, we need to talk semifinal. So let's talk about your guy Nadal. First of all, what were we seeing from that match? There's been a lot of intrigue kind of around it. What do you got for us on that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great match. It was well played on both sides of the court. As a Nadal fan, you had to be feeling good in the first 5 games.
Yeah, 5-0, right?
Yeah, and then Djok reestablished himself and played well, got himself into the first set, and then even though he dropped the second set, and then did he drop the second set? No, I guess it was in 4, right? So yeah, so then he took the second, took the 4. So really, it all came down to that 3rd set for me. I feel like the winner of that set. Well, I mean, I guess you always have to account for Djok's mindset, and his mentality is top notch and incredible. But I feel like that was the death knell for Rafa. And so if you look at the numbers, it makes sense. The numbers show that Djok overall played just a little bit better in pretty much each aspect of the game than Rafa did. So overall for the full match, their first serve percentage was pretty even, 64% for Djokovic and 65% for Rafa. The win on the first serve was a tad bit higher for Djokovic. He was getting 65% of his points off the first serve, whereas Rafa was down in the 59% range. And on the second serve, Djokovic was winning half of his points, whereas Rafa was only winning about 40%. So a little bit lower there. But I think one of the biggest points here that really hurt Nadal in the end of it was unforced errors. And so Rafa had 55 over the match compared to Djokovic's 37. And if you break it down by sets and you look at that third set, Djokovic had just 10 errors to Rafa's 23. So just a huge disparity there in unforced errors. And we all know that easy volley that Rafa missed. I think it was in the tiebreak. It was like 3-4 or something in the tiebreak. And just kind of a one picture moment of kind of some of the mental easy mistakes that Rafa was more prone to make than Djokovic in that set and kind of throughout the match. And I think that was the summary of the match for Rafa. Just a couple points here and there where his mental fortitude or his consistency just kind of broke down just a tad, just enough for Djok to get in there and finish it off in 4.
Yeah, like you said, I think well said on what a match that was and how just a few points here and there. And I really like you talked about the first set. I thought that was crazy when Nadal went up 5-0 and you're like, and Djok was just talking about in the press conference of, I know I have belief I can beat Nadal. And you're like, you're not showing it, dude. You're down 5-love. And then he comes back and makes it a 6-3. And you're like, man, how did he come back? I think that kind of got him back in mentally, even though he lost the set. And I'm just thinking back to less than a year ago, right, when they played Roland Garros in October, and he got totally blitzed by Nadal. Straight sets. There might have even been a 6-0 or 6-1 set. It was very, very one-sided. Of course, a little bit colder, slower conditions. But I was kind of getting the same feeling at the start of the first set in this match, but that's not what happened, right? Djokovic flipped it around. I think conditions playing faster, you usually talk about how that favors Nadal. He's feeling that up the line forehand can really turn into winners, but it was really helping Djokovic. And just something, this is more qualitative that I was noticing is just how Djokovic was able to, in the rallies, really neutralize Nadal. He wasn't able to really work that up the line forehand after that first set as much, finding it for winners. It was more a lot of cross court pulling Nadal wide on the backhand. Nadal, he's got a great slice backhand, but I think he was slicing a few too many backhands, allowing Djokovic to dictate a little bit more. And then he's kind of figured out also like Federer, when you play Nadal, you can also hit it wide to his forehand to go for some inside out winners. And he was going for that as well. So it's kind of weird. He's playing the angle game a little bit better and not taking away that up the line from Nadal, I think is huge. Because when on a faster court, if he gets that up the line rolling, I mean, you're pretty much done, right? He can finish points so well on that up the line forehand. So again, that's not necessarily numbers, but more tactically how Djokovic was playing him was honestly a little bit how Federer has kind of played Nadal a little bit more. But obviously on a clay court, it's a good theory, but actually put it into practice, you really got to play well. And I think you said it with less unforced errors. It's kind of interesting on the stats. This is Infosys statistics on the Roland Garros website. You sort them by significance, the statistics, and it depends on the match, right? So some statistics for this Nadal-Djokovic match will be considered, the most important stat or the second most important stat. That'll be different from a different match that you analyze. And so this one was winners, which I thought was interesting that winners is the most important, which Nadal had more. I think at least third set he had more. Overall, actually, Djokovic had 2 more. But unforced errors, it was like drastic, the amount that Nadal hit it more unforced errors than winners. Djokovic, he hit much less. It looks like what is that there? Doing math here. So it looks like 13 less unforced errors. So his plus minus is huge. And then from then on, it went to receiving points 1, which this is a big one I want to talk about, right? I think the guy who wins this match, whether it's the one in Rome where Nadal won it or this one where Djokovic won it in Roland Garros, it's dictated by those receiving points, putting lots and lots of pressure, which Nadal always does on the other person's service game. He was 41%. I mean, that's just not the usual Nadal number for clay court matches. Djokovic was a 47%. That's an incredibly good number, and that's closer to like a Nadal number where there's just too much pressure on the other the other person's service games, and then you wilt and you give up breaks. And so Nadal, unfortunately, just didn't have as many chances on Djokovic's service games, which you got to credit Djokovic. He was serving pretty well in this match as well. But like you said, pretty high level from both guys. And like you said, it really came down to a couple points here and there, really, when all said and done.
No doubt. Fed fans got their way, but you're sitting here looking at Djokovic having a golden slam, and I just don't see how that's better for anybody. Everybody's hating on Rafa.
Everyone's hating.
They're gonna be regretting it in a couple months.
We'll see, man. Djokovic doesn't usually play well at the Olympics, but I mean, if he's hungry, anything's possible. Best of 3, he's vulnerable, though, I will say.
Yeah.
But I can't count him out for Wimbledon. He's got to be the head and shoulders favorite for Wimbledon. Nadal won't be there. Not that he's done super well on the grass as of late. Federer's kind of struggling, which you'd kind of credit Federer. He had match points in the final, not last time he played Djokovic. The last time there was a Wimbledon, kind of sounds weird to say because last year there was no Wimbledon with the pandemic. They got their pandemic insurance that paid them out. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like Djokovic is a pretty strong favorite going into Wimbledon. We'll see though. It's hard to win tournament after tournament, as we've seen. One last thought on the third set there, and just in general, was the second serve points won for Nadal. You mentioned it that it was not as good in the third set. It's pronounced though. It's 60% for Djokovic, only 40% for Nadal. Granted, it's a smaller sample size because it's one set, and Nadal's first serve percentage is usually pretty high. But still, it's just like, Djokovic is finding ways on Nadal's second serve where against other guys, Nadal's not struggling to win second serve points won. So Djokovic is a totally different animal. I think he totally took it to Nadal after that first set. And yeah, it was fun to watch, but in some ways you kind of felt for Rafa because, volley here, volley there, slice backhand here and there, and Djokovic is in the match. So still shocking to see Nadal lose, but Djokovic had to play high level to beat him. I mean, Nadal's just that good on clay. So, all right. So let's cover the other semifinal. Let's shift gears here. So this is of course, the young guns going at it, Zverev and Tsitsipas. And going into this match, it was very, very strongly favored, especially from the pundits. It's like, oh, Tsitsipas got this in the bag, straight sets. And of course, Tsitsipas has been showing this tournament. He did go up to 2 quick sets. But then he let Zverev kind of go back into it. Zverev started playing more aggressive. He started coming to net a lot more and kind of rushing Tsitsipas and got a break in each set. 6-4, 6-4. So, and then in the fifth set, it was crazy to watch because Tsitsipas almost, I think it was love 40 or 15-40 down. He was almost going to get broken the first game of the fifth set. He fought and he held that game. And then from then on, he had momentum. It was kind of a weird momentum shift there. But yeah, let's go to the numbers here. We'll do first kind of the match overall and then the fifth set. But I was impressed by the level by both guys, honestly. Both guys were going to net quite a bit. Tsitsipas was just a little bit better, 73% net points won to 66%. But again, both guys went to net 35 times. So I was impressed by Zverev when he was knocking down those volleys. Did pretty well. He's really improved that aspect of his game. By significance, that was the second most significant stat after unforced errors, according to Infosys. Tsitsipas had less unforced, but it was pretty close. Then the win on first serve percentage. So both guys, again, really high level, 76% for Tsitsipas, basically identical, 75% for Zverev. So both guys really working the first serve really well. Ace count was also fairly similar. Receiving points won. Tsitsipas was a little bit better. 36% to 32%. A little bit more pressure on the Zverev return games. And then it's kind of weird to see win on second serves and break points way at the bottom of the list. But Tsitsipas did better on at least winning on second serve points at 52%, vice 40%. But it's, again, weird. I mean, that's a pretty important stat. Weird to see it so far down the list. And then break points, Tsitsipas had 5 break points out of 14 for a 36% conversion rate. Zverev only had 6 opportunities, but he did make the most of his chances there and won 3 out of 6 for 50% conversion rate. So just going to the fifth set, look at that significance there. So they reshorted the stats. to win on first serve, 83% for Tsitsipas to 74% for Zverev. So really elevated his level there, winning behind that first serve. And I think it kind of carried him toward the end. But I don't know, Matt, any thoughts on the Tsitsipas-Zverev match, semifinal?
No, I think he covered it well. Like you said at the beginning of it, interesting that Zverev was able to claw his way back into that match.
Yeah, amazing mental fortitude that he had to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just real quick on the net point. So in set 3, just go back to Zverev doing well at the net. He came to net, looks like 15 times in that third set, which is almost, that's 6 times more than Tsitsipas even attempted, and had a pretty good conversion rate of 67% of those volleys. So set 3, he was really able to come behind his serve and knock off some nice winners at the net and have a really nice winner count there. So I think there's some positive things. It's kind of weird to see it again. So you look at the U.S. Open where he was up 2-0 over Thiem and kind of blows that lead, and Thiem's able to win in 5. This one, he's down 2-0 in a semifinal, comes back and pushes 5. So I think he has some of the mental fortitude there. He's just got to close the match or not go down 2-0 like he did against Thiem. And Tsitsipas, it was really weird to see him also kind of relinquish his groove that he was in and let Zverev dictate, because that's really what Zverev did. He went from being more passive to dictating in the 3rd and 4th sets. So pretty fun to watch these guys. I don't think this will be the last match we'll watch of these guys, but great to see their level was pretty high on the clay. So that's really all I got for the semifinal. So let's go to the final. So first we'll cover the final, and then I'll talk about kind of my thoughts on Tsitsipas and Federer and their similarities, but specifically on the clay. So were you able to watch much of the final, Matt?
Was I able to? No, not a ton of it. I watched the first 2 sets, so I guess a good amount. I watched the good part.
That's basically what I watched. Yeah, I watched the first 2 sets, and then I kind of followed a little bit in the 5th set. But yeah, crazy match. I was starting to get the feels too. I'm like, man, every time Nadal's been defeated at Roland Garros, the person who's defeated him has lost in the final. So you think of Soderling losing to Federer in 2009. Djokovic took out Nadal in the quarters in 2015. He loses in the final to Stan Wawrinka, the infamous final, where Stan had the really ugly shorts but was playing, out of his mind, right? So Wawrinka upset Djokovic in the final. And then this year, I guess, is the only other time he's lost. And was getting that same kind of thought. I'm like, Tsitsipas is up 2-0. He's playing really well. It was crazy watching that first set too. I don't know if you had the same thoughts. He had some chances, I think, to break or to go up 5-4, but then he missed it. And then Djokovic, all of a sudden, out of the blue, breaks him at 6-5, and you're like, okay, Djokovic will serve for the set. Tsitsipas breaks back and then goes to a tiebreaker and plays really gritty tennis to take the tiebreak. And you're like, man, Tsitsipas just all the momentum. He breaks again in the start of the second, wins the second 6-2, and you're like, man, this guy's unstoppable. And then the 3rd and 4th, I don't know how Djokovic does it, but he came back, obviously, and Tsitsipas level definitely dropped. So we'll look at the numbers now, but just amazing roller coaster of a final, you could definitely say.
Yeah, absolutely. One of those where it's a tale of 2 matches.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it was. All right, so let's look at the numbers here. So I have the match first charted out. So overall, it has the winners as the most important stat, I guess, they have here. So Tsitsipas did hit more winners, but it was close, 61-56. Their net points won also pretty identical, 61% by 63% for Djokovic. Higher, and it was the same number of times. They both went to net about 30 times. And I was a little surprised that Tsitsipas didn't go to net a little bit more. I don't know if a couple passes hurt him or if he just stopped doing it, but I think he could have kept that up. Unforced errors, both guys, again, pretty similar numbers. Tsitsipas only had 3 more, 44-41 for Djokovic. So overall, his plus minus for winner to unforced actually better than Djokovic. But again, like you said, tail 2 matches. Doesn't matter if you win a set 6-2 and then you lose the next set 6-4, right? 2 breaks, 1 break. So, well, let's look where Djokovic edged him out on the match overall. So first serve, man, Djokovic is so solid on that first serve. So he's the first serve percentage was 68% by 62. But the big one that he did super well on was winning first serve points 78% by 67% for Tsitsipas. So, I mean, that's 78%, close to 80%. That's like grass court number or fast hard court. He was just so good on the serve. I don't know how else to put it. Or Tsitsipas just struggling on the return, however you want to put it. But, I mean, that's just an astronomical number. And then win on second serve is 53% for Djokovic. Tsitsipas didn't do bad. He was 50%. But, man, Djokovic was playing really well. And then receiving points won. So Djokovic, remember, he won 47% of Nadal's. This one, he was only 40% overall. But compared to Tsitsipas 30, I mean, Tsitsipas just not in enough service games to really hurt Novak in the end. And then the ace count for Tsitsipas was 14, vice 5 for Djokovic. So a lot more aces, though Djokovic was still able to find ways to win off the first serve. And then the break points was 5 out of 16 for Novak and 3 out of 8 for Tsitsipas. So Novak creating a lot more opportunities, right? Because he's winning more of the return points. So if you go quickly through sets, I think I have sets 1 and 5 here. We'll go through real fast. 1, 2, and 5. So just the big takeaways here. So in set 1, you have the win on second serve was pretty high for Tsitsipas. So his numbers really came down because I think what we were saying, 50% for the match. He was at 67% in the first set, vice 25% for Novak. So Novak was doing well on his first serve, but second serve, Tsitsipas was playing very aggressive and taking it to him. And efficient at the net, both guys were pretty good at the net. That's kind of the big number that jumps out at me. But still, win on first serve, 85% for Djokovic. So really a tale of two serves there, right? If he gets his first serve in, it's almost automatic point for Djokovic. If he misses that first serve, Tsitsipas is all over it. So pretty tight set that Tsitsipas won in a tiebreak. Set 2 was still kind of more of the same. You had second serve where Tsitsipas' level came down a little bit. Still 57% is a really solid number. Djokovic did come up, 25%. He's going to improve that. And he was at 50%. But then Tsitsipas was even better on first serve. Points won at 87%. And Novak's level dropped a ton in the second set. 57% win on first serve. And that's why Tsitsipas got 2 breaks and was able to run away with that set. He won 45% of receiving points won, vice 23% for Novak. So I just showed you, Novak couldn't really buy a point in that second set. But then everything changed. Third and fourth was super lopsided. But let's talk about the fifth set statistics overall. So in the fifth set, you had win on first serve, 85% for Novak, by 64 for Tsitsipas. And win on second serve was 57% for Novak, vice 50% for Tsitsipas. And so just overall, looks like it's really coming down to that first serve. Tsitsipas level dropped. Novak's was way up, even though I think he had a chance. I don't know if it was quite a break point, but he had a chance in that last game when Novak was serving it out to get back in it, but couldn't do it. And overall, receiving points won. Novak had 43% for the fifth set, vice only 22% for Tsitsipas. So he just couldn't get into a service game, and he lost the one break, and that ended up being it. So, yeah, crazy match. It's weird to see these ones like, didn't we see one with Medvedev and Nadal where Nadal went up 2-0? Medvedev came back, won 2 sets in a row, and even made it a tight one in the fifth. And you see this one with Tsitsipas 2-0 up, Novak coming back. It's like, these are just roller coasters, man.
Indeed, yeah. And I have to wonder, and I don't know, this is pure speculation, right? But Tsitsipas, wasn't it just last year in the French that he had that 5-setter against Djokovic?
He did.
And he totally lost
2-0 up. And he did. And he was 2-0 down in that one and came back, right? Yep.
Yeah. So I almost wonder if he needs to pull a Federer and go like train in the desert or something, I wonder if this up and coming generation, I don't know. I mean, at some point you think Djokovic is 34, 30 something. Nadal's a year older than him. Fed's 39. And Fed's finally showing it. Rafa's showing it a little bit and being more selective. Djokovic doesn't seem to be.
No.
So, but you wonder how much of it is physical, how how much in that final fifth set was Tsitsipas just hurting? Obviously it wasn't as bad as last year, but maybe there was a little bit of that aspect to it.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's a good point. It's hard to say whether it's that or just, mental. Obviously, there's something there mental where,
Right.
In the mental and the physical, there is an interface, right? If you're hurting, you're not able to go for as many shots on the return or whatnot. But yeah, something there, like you're saying, he's just running out of gas. Goes up 2-0 on Zverev, almost can't finish the job, almost goes down an early break in the fifth. Was able to recover against Djokovic. It just shows, right? Djokovic is one of those where he's like a wounded animal, where he's more dangerous, honestly, when he's down.
Yeah.
Now, no one wants to be down with their back against the wall, 2-0, but you got to take out Djokovic, man. If you don't take him out in that third, the fourth, he starts gaining a little bit more momentum. Once he wins the third set, fourth gains more, and then once you go to the fifth, he's got momentum. So yeah, I don't know what it is with Tsitsipas. There's been a few times in matches where he's not able to close the door, and I personally think it's mental. I'm thinking back to the Coric match where he was up. I think he had 2 match points, 40-15 up. Maybe it's 5-2, and he blows that match. He not only gets broken then, but he gets broken later because obviously he doesn't serve it out or doesn't win that set. He's up 5-2. So yeah, I don't know what it is. His level is clearly there. He's good enough to beat these guys, but it just goes to show, right? The big three are the big three for a reason, especially Djokovic and Nadal. They're so hard to beat anywhere. And best of 5, it's proven it, man. It's insane.
Yep.
I guess one more quick note on that too. So it's interesting to think some of the best matches of the year, even, let alone on clay, were Djokovic and Tsitsipas. I believe is it Rome, Madrid, whichever. I think it was Rome, where Djokovic was down a set and even a break, and Tsitsipas gives up the next 2 sets 7-5, and I think Djokovic was able to win it. And it's a crazy tie match, very high level. But again, he's able to kind of let Djokovic creep back in. That one's a harder one because I think it was rain delay. So coming back off a rain delay, sometimes momentum can drastically shift. But again, he was up on Djokovic, kind of like a microcosm of, the French Open, you could say. But just really weird to see that mentally you got to shut the door on these guys and just keep playing your game and do what works. Like, why are you not going to net as much? And why are you not able to press on that second serve of Novak's like you did in the first set? Some of those things, it just kind of fades. And like I said, maybe there's something physical there too, but the big three are not going to hand these titles over to these young guns. So yeah, they're going to need to fight for every point down to the match point, right? Down to, got to win 3 sets.
Yep.
But I was impressed. I was impressed with Tsitsipas's level, winning those first 2 sets. Just a little bummed he couldn't finish it off in the end, but got to credit to Novak. He somehow is able to dig out of that one.
Yeah, somehow. No doubt. It's impressive. It's otherworldly.
Yeah, it is. So with that, let's go over. Let's talk Tsitsipas and clay, because obviously it's not a fluke. He's really good on clay. He won Monte Carlo, Masters 1000. He made the semifinals of the French last year. Made like we talked about, 5th set against Novak, where Novak beat him last year, and then this year makes the final. Right, beats Zverev en route. Is 1 set away from beating Djokovic, but not able to do it. So let's talk. Tsitsipas clearly good on clay. He's comfortable on clay. So I was kind of curious, just seeing his really low return point numbers, even in matches where he's dominant. He's just really, really dominant on his serve, which is interesting. So it got me thinking about him and Federer, comparing their numbers. And even if you look at clay or hardcourt, Federer is much better in most of the statistical categories than Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas got some work to do on those other surfaces if he wants to play like Federer, you could say. But looking at the clay, the numbers are pretty identical. So this is Fed's career numbers on clay by Tsitsipas. So let's go through them real quick. I think you'll be a little surprised at literally how eerily similar they are. So I'm just going to go through the serve ones. So ace count, Fed's a little higher by 1.5 points. Okay, fine. 7.5% to 6% for Tsitsipas. That's fine. Double fault's slightly higher for Tsitsipas, 2.8 to 2.1. But here we go. First serve percentage even. 61% for Federer, 62% for Tsitsipas. First serve points won, 75% for Federer, 73% for Tsitsipas. Okay, 2% off, probably, maybe statistical anomaly. But then you have second serve points won, 56% for Federer, 55% for Tsitsipas. Break points saved, 66% Tsitsipas, 65% Federer. So they're literally like within a point or two of each. Now, Federer's, granted, he's been better on most of these ones, but break points, Tsitsipas, saving 1% better. Service games won overall is 85% and 85%, right? So literally they're able to hold the percentage of service games that they are at a pretty high clip, 85% each. Fed's able to do a little bit better on the service points won, so maybe he's winning one more point, 1 percentage point better. It looks like 67% by 66% of points, but the results are the same. They're winning the same amount of service games. You go to the return points, which really got me thinking that they were similar, but even the serve is shown they're serving about the same way, right? They're winning 75% of points and 73% of points on their first serve, which is a great clip of winning that. They're both dominant on their first serve, even on the clay. So then you go to return points. Okay, so Federer gets a little bit more, 4%, by 3% for Tsitsipas. First serve return points won. Federer's at, looks like 35% by 33% for Tsitsipas. So he can improve that a little bit to match Federer. But it's only off by 2%. And then you go to second serve. Tsitsipas is a little bit better than Federer, 52% by 51%. Break points won. Tsitsipas a little better, actually 3% better, 43% vice 40%. And then return points won overall, guessed it, about the same, right? 40% for Tsitsipas, vice 41% for Federer, for a yield of the same result. 28% of service games won for both guys. So just crazy how literally, these numbers are off by a couple points, a couple percentage points here and there, but really the results are the same. They're winning 85% of their service games on clay, and they're winning 28% of their return points on clay, or return games on clay. So overall, you go to the overall results. Both guys have won, looks like 76% of his matches on clay. Federer has won to 75% of Tsitsipas's matches on clay. And the points overall, looks like the break point ratio is a little bit better for Tsitsipas. He seems to save more break points and convert a few more. But Federer's a little bit more dominant in the points, as far as first serve points won, that type of thing, barely. But overall, Federer's winning 53.5 total points won on clay to Tsitsipas's 53%. So pretty crazy there. And even their match times, Tsitsipas takes a little bit longer to win. It looks like an hour and 51 minutes to Federer's hour and 45 minutes. So just crazy to see their career numbers and how literally identical. I mean, they have a little bit of the eye test, right? They both play well at net, one-handed backhand, really big forehand. But even the way that they're winning points is pretty much identical on clay. So that's why I'm definitely Roger Federer, at least on clay. You think he's got some work to do on the grass and on the hard court, but really surprised because I just had that thought. I'm like, man, they seem like they're not winning a lot of return points, but they're still able to be pretty good on clay, which Federer, he's not bad. In fact, he won, what did he win, Matt? His first few matches and then pulled out against Berrettini?
Yeah. So, first 3 or something.
Yeah. So just a little bit shocked there, but Tsitsipas pretty solid. Maybe he can, get a French Open title just like Federer has, but he's going to have to go through those guys that really win return points, which are Djokovic and Nadal. Those guys are pretty hard to beat on the clay, and that's the reason why.
Yep, no doubt. That's eerie.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Like, this is crazy eerie. So let's talk real quick, shift gears. Let's talk grass court season. So we obviously had Halle and the Queens Court Tennis Club. So Berrettini won the Queens tournament, which he's been pretty sneaky good on the grass. I think he'll be hard to beat at Wimbledon. But then you had Rublev actually get upset to Humbert in the final of Halle. But you think, oh, Halle, that's usually Federer's turf. And you'd be right. He's won it, I think, 10 times. So he lost in the fourth round to Felix Auger-Aliassime. So this was one that was going to be a little tough going in, even though I feel like Felix was having a rough time on the clay. Hadn't won a ton of matches. But Fed did win the first set 6-4. I was doing the quick numbers on the serve factor and was seeing he really shouldn't have won that set. According to the serve factor, Aliassime should have won it because he created a lot more break points. Federer was just a little more clutch in those moments. And I'm like, Federer's going to have to play better because it's not even really close. Auger Aliassime was 10 points better on the serve factor. And sure enough, Federer actually his level dipped a little bit, and he lost 6-3 and 6-2 in the rest of that match. So a little bit concerning, if you're a Fed fan, which, that's myself included. He really wasn't able to win a lot of points off the first serve. His win percent on second serve was okay, 56%. I think you can live with, but 62% on the first serve for Federer, he's used to that 80% mark. And then, of course, even worse for him is the receiving points one, which is even more concerning. That movement's not really there. The match fitness not really there. He only had one break point. He converted it 1-for-1, but Auger Aliassime had 15 break points, converted 3 of them. He's really got to find a way to get into the service games. And I don't know if there's an easy answer to that. I don't know if it's something technical. It looks like it's more just the legs. But yeah, a little bit concerning if you're a Federer fan, especially the way he went out 6-2. That's pretty meekly to go out in the third set. So I don't know if there's any thoughts for you, Matt, on Federer, usually the king of grass, a little struggling. Any thoughts on that, Matt? King of grass is struggling. Any thoughts on that, on the king of grass struggling?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I wasn't hearing you before, but go ahead.
You could?
No, I couldn't. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, you can edit this.
No, you're gonna. Yeah, I can edit it easily.
So I was just saying, it's interesting. We talk about the big three having these mentalities of steel, kind of just a notch above everybody else. And I haven't been following a ton, but it seems like Fed's been making some comments on, my mentality, my attitude towards things, towards match play, just isn't what it used to be. It isn't where I want it to be. And so we'll see if he's been able to really fix that coming into Wimbledon. He's right. He makes the point. If I keep playing like this, it's not going to be very good. So.
Yep. Right. So there's the attitude part too. Even if physically he's able to get back, and move around, there's the mental part of it. And I think even Sampras, I think it was Sampras said it. He said there's some days, you feel fine and you're able to win, and other days maybe you're not feeling that bad physically, but you just don't quite have it, the goods and the shot selection and some of that. It's just kind of interesting that age, I think it kind of hurts your mental game too. Because if you don't have confidence as well, you're like, I'm missing that forehand that I usually hit up the line or whatever. I think some things can kind of compound on you. And interesting to see Nadal, be dethroned, though, he fought a good semifinal, be dethroned, to see if Federer, possibly get dethroned and not even get far in Wimbledon. We're used to seeing him go semis or further really pretty much every year. There's some upsets, but it'd be really interesting to see that. We did also update our Rafael Nadal clay court data because obviously he lost the French Open, for how many sets he dropped, and kind of looking at his, we saw some warning signs going in that he wasn't playing his best, but still close enough to where he had won before. But because, he was able to win Rome and Barcelona overall, but just another data point, because not every day that Nadal loses at his favorite tournament. So we have that ready to go for next year and beyond. But yeah, tennis, there's a lot of tennis going on, and Wimbledon's going to be pretty fun. Anything else, Matt, to comment on?
That's everything for me.
That's all I got. I think there's just a lot of good tennis to watch. I'm excited to see what the Wimbledon draw brings out. I think there'll be some opportunities, since people like Nadal and I think Raonic and some others won't be there. So I think there'll be opportunities for other guys to go far. But as always, visit us at cognitionsphere.com. Our theme music was brought to us by Kevin MacLeod with excerpts from his song Cool Rock. And as always, share our podcast with a friend who loves tennis, and take a minute to write a quick review. And until next time, we'll see you on the court.